Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Serge.
And my name is James.
As many of you regular listeners will know, end of game week 10, so we're over a quarter of a way through the season.
Wish we weren't.
My rank now starts with a 1 at the beginning, James. So for the first time this season, I have a rank inside the top 2 million.
Well done. Congratulations. If anybody was wondering, there's too long gone in the season, James's rank is still abysmal at 3 points something, then I obviously wish it was game week 38, mate.
Because of your team sitting
of course,
at
of course.
the top of the league, having scraped a draw against Chelsea. Having said that, I am in no position to talk about teams scraping results, so we'll worry about that in a little while. Tell everybody how you did game week 10. What worked, what didn't?
Meh. 52 points for a smallish green. What worked? Being brave enough to stick the armband on Bruno Fernandes didn't go too badly. Jack Grealish has 10 points, but then feels like everybody else has that as well.
His ownership is crazy, mate. 57%. I'm one of the non-owners, but 57%. No, sorry, Son's 57%. Jack Grealish is 47% or something like that. Really high.
It will be 57% very shortly, I believe.
I reckon so.
I bought Ruben Diaz, so take the clean sheet there. If one stat will sum up my game week is the fact that Phil Foden was my fourth highest scorer with an assist off the bench. That's why I can't sell him before Fulham this weekend. And those are my returns, mate. Nothing else. Nico Williams, what a done. Played not long enough, but then at least the clean sheet got wiped out at the end anyway, so I didn't feel like I missed out on the double Liverpool clean sheet. That obviously cost. Calvert-Lewin, nothing. Poor Raul Jimenez, we wish a speedy recovery. Nothing for Sonny. Emi Martinez, I really wish I'd bought Fabianski a few weeks back, mate. That's my week.
Well, I only scored 1 point more than you, if that's any consolation. I had Bruno captain. Fernandes, KDB captain and Bruno in my team, which is the equivalent of having Bruno and Jack Grealish. And then Reece James got me 6 points, but somewhere along the line, one of my players probably played a full game rather than one of yours, playing half a game and got me that extra point. Blanks everywhere else. Ramsdale picked me up save points. And Sonny, with his clean sheet point, kind of got me to 53. But it's taken me to 1.9 million now. And to be honest, what started as a potentially really good game week really petered out, where the 0-0 draw for Chelsea Spurs, whilst expected, meant that obviously Son and Kane blanked. And then yesterday's game, going into it with triple West Ham, you could have felt my excitement when we scored inside 2 minutes, thinking,
how have you ended up with triple West Ham?
Antonio, Souček, and Soufal. I think all three are very viable FPL players. It just happens to be that all three are in there together. Yeah. Should we talk about briefly? Let me mention something because I told him I would. My brother always watches the games with me. I got Bowen as captain. I was like, plonker. You plonker. I was like, why do you always do dumb stuff like that? Guess who's got the last laugh there? 26 points off Jared Bowen. Git.
Interestingly, Jack Grealish matched him for top bonus despite the one goal, which is quite interesting.
Oh, well, we'll talk about the game, but are you surprised?
What, that Jack Grealish matched him for top bonus? I'm a little bit surprised that Bowen got a goal and assist and Grealish matched it, but I think it speaks volumes about Jack Grealish as an asset. The problem is with Grealish, Son, Kane, it's going to get that way with Bruno Fernandes very shortly. Like getting the gains out of these guys is not easy because obviously the volume of ownership. Calvert-Lewin's another one. The volume of ownership is so big. Those 5 players, I've got all of them: Kane, Son, Fernandes, Grealish, and Calvert-Lewin. Their combined ownership, I'm pretty sure I said this last week, was around about 5%, probably increasing slightly rather than decreasing. So if they all return, you're going to do very well. But in terms of just individually, you ain't getting great gains out of any of these players particularly. They're all quite hard to, even Spurs. Okay, yeah, 2 blanks for Son, basically. I know it's not. It's only one blank for Son. Oh, I'll have to sell or something. Same for Kane. First blank since game week 1. But you feel like 2 of the worst fixtures have just gone, right? The Arsenal fixture on paper, from an FPL perspective, doesn't look as daunting as it might have done 2 weeks ago before this run started. And you go, oh, 3 really tough games. The majority of people will probably expect Spurs to get a result on Sunday now. Liverpool away because defensive issues. I've heard rumours this morning that Alisson's out the Champions League game tonight and it might be an injury.
Ouch.
It never ends. It pours.
Well, yeah. Have you got any early transfer thoughts at the moment, or are you going to wait and see what happens after?
Well, I have to sell Raul Jimenez, which was the plan anyway. Anybody who's been listening regularly know I've been trying to get rid of the poor fella for weeks, and this was always where it was going to land before they played Liverpool, was to move on. So he's definitely going. Where I go, honestly, I couldn't give you an accurate answer right now. Adams, Antonio, Bamford, even Callum Wilson, because of the next 4 fixtures they've got, all very viable options. I haven't decided yet. It will probably be it will be someone for me looking at covering till game week 15. So it won't be like a 1 week choice. It'll be whoever goes in is staying there for the 5 weeks. So it might be that I still lean towards Antonio, possibly, although that coming off at half-time last night's really put me off. That's the one I want, really, but I don't want that to happen again. That's a waste. Is he fit? Not fit? Thoughts?
He wasn't fit. I also thought it was very interesting that he played out on the left with Fornals in the middle for pretty much the whole half. Mainly, I guess, to keep him away from Mings and Konsa because they're so big and strong that I think David Moyes thought that he wouldn't get much change out of those guys. So let me put him up against Matty Cash.
I think he just naturally likes to go into that channel.
He does, but then Fornals drifts in and he spent a lot of time out on the left. Like for me, I always want to see him. I want to see him everywhere, to be honest. Go and cause chaos wherever you want to, but he hugged the left so much yesterday. Let's be honest, he was ineffective in that first half. He didn't have a great game, but the entire team was ineffective. So I honestly think you just got to put a line under yesterday's West Ham performance and just move on from it. I don't think you can take anything from it and try and pull anything because it was so different to previous performances. Do I think he'll start again at the weekend? I probably think he will because there's no doubt he's first choice over Haller. No doubt about it. So if he's fit enough and he's got another 3 or 4 days training under his belt, I think he will start on Saturday.
Thoughts for yourself?
Well, I rode through the week with Ross Barkley. I did get a 0.1 drop out of him, which was disappointing, but I decided not to take a hit to get him out because I was happy with the Fernandes and Che Adams moves. Fernandes obviously returning straight away, and Che Adams, all he had to do was match Timo Werner, and he did. So I'll take that. And their fixtures get better now for the next 3. So I need to solve the Ross Barkley problem. I've got 5.9 with 1 in the bank, so I've got 6 million. It's just no good options there at 6 million. The FPL site reckons that Ross Barkley will be back on the 12th of December. I don't know how accurate that is. I don't know if you know any more information.
No, I've not had a timeline defined for him, to be honest, but hamstring is not going to be, he ain't going to be back any earlier than that. Put it that way, mate.
So I might roll. If I'm not going to lose any more value on Ross Barkley, I might roll. I'm not under pressure to make a move because I've got enough players that start. Ramsdale's still a fucking thorn in my arse and continues to be. So yeah, again, some of the players that I did look at and want, McCarthy's gone up by 0.1. I do like the look of Mendy, but to get to Mendy, I need to sell Ross Barkley to someone cheaper. Another counter question to you is, we know that Danny Ings might be fit soon.
Yes, he's got an outside shot of Monday, possibly. Yeah.
And Theo Walcott has been starting games, the last couple at least, for Southampton. If Danny Ings comes back in the front 2 with Che Adams, does Theo Walcott take Stuart Armstrong's place on the right, or do you think Armstrong will start ahead of Theo Walcott? Because Walcott has been starting. It's been okay.
I would be very surprised if Danny Ings played at Brighton on Monday's the first thing. But which one plays out of Walcott or Armstrong? I don't think I can answer that.
So
I think
if you told me
Armstrong
that
gives them the balance, but then also missing Redmond, which has a little bit of an impact on that decision at the moment as well, I think. So
Armstrong at 5.5 is the best
it's not the
5.5
answer.
option
It's not the
for
answer.
me. Why?
It's not the answer. At what price John McGinn?
I would have to check.
Might be an interesting one, considering you haven't got Grealish and the run of fixtures they've got.
Yeah. The alternative is to sell Son to go to Grealish, and that gives me enough money to buy Diogo Jota. So Jota and Grealish versus Son and Barkley, or Son and Armstrong, is a consideration.
Jota looks a great prospect now. He's kind of penciled in for me to come in for Foden after this week, I think. Hey, there goes the phone. I might even captain him in game week 12, the way it's beginning to look, actually. But I want to wait on to see what they've done with these Champions League games and whatnots as well.
I'm keeping my powder dry for the next couple of days, see what happens to Champions League. As always, Liverpool obviously playing Ajax, aren't they? So I want to make sure that Jota, if he plays, comes through unscathed.
Liverpool obviously still need to get a result to confirm, obviously, their progress. United still need a result. Chelsea and City are through. Europa League looks quite straightforward for Tottenham, Arsenal, Leicester, but then if Tottenham lose on Thursday, actually potentially put some doubt in terms of their qualification. The other two should be absolutely fine. We've heard rumours over the last 24 hours or so of potential COVID outbreak at Newcastle, which should be very cautious of if you're looking at buying Aston Villa assets early. Don't is the answer. They could be wonderful assets this week. Genuinely, they play Newcastle on Friday night. But this feels like the first time where there could be some doubt on the game, possibly.
Wow, okay.
I'm sure it will go ahead, but the rumour is, and I haven't had confirmation yet, we're recording really early on Tuesday, that a lot of the players are in isolation at the moment. Now, that can go either way in the sense that Newcastle could end up putting out a very inferior side on Friday night, which is interesting, and possibly makes Jack Grealish a captainable option should the game take place and Newcastle have a very weak team. But yeah, not a week for earlies if you've got Villa, Newcastle or any of them teams playing in Europe. Just sit tight for the sec.
Yeah. Let's run down some of the games from this week, and if there's anything that's cropped up from an FPL point of view that we might be considering from asset-wise. I think a few teams are doing a really good job of just ruling themselves out at the moment as well. Palace, Newcastle. I think sneaky on Newcastle. I know you talked about Antonio. Callum Wilson, not anywhere near your thoughts and consideration. Still got a good run all the way up to City.
To be honest with
15,
you,
when you wildcard.
I'm pretty sure that come Friday, I'll be buying Ollie Watkins as long as that game goes ahead. I think it's probably what's going to happen. Callum Wilson, I don't want to buy. I just do not want to buy a Newcastle forward. However, it is very difficult to argue with the fact that he has 10 attacking returns in 9 games. It's brilliant, right? He's the third highest scoring FPL forward at the moment. Clinical in front of goal. We know that. Yeah, I mean, it's viable. Their next 4 fixtures are decent. If they've got a fit team available. Villa away, West Brom at home, Leeds away, Fulham at home. I also think because of what's possibly happening at Newcastle, you probably really don't want to be buying any of their assets at the moment. It was probably a last week thing. I think Wilson for the 5 would have been viable, or even Jamal Lewis to cover you defensively for a bit of rotation over these 5 fixtures. Again, quite viable as short-term options. But no, not for me. The game actually wasn't a bad watch, to be honest. I think Palace, Newcastle and West Brom, Sheffield United were 2 of the better games I watched over the weekend. And you can have the stigma about these games why they're 0-0, that they're shit. It was all right. I think Palace probably had a period where, like, when Van Aanholt dragged the shot and stuff, and you think they're building momentum, they're going to win it here. And then Newcastle just nick it at the end, right? And all my timeline was like, how does Steve Bruce do it? Like he's some sort of magician. He's definitely not a magician, but it definitely went his way Friday night as well. I'd tell you who played well. I thought Joe Linton played really well, actually. I know he's ended up with the goal and the assist at the end, but actually from really early in the game, he was on it. He actually played quite well. He still looks like he's never going to score in front of goal, but I thought his all-round forward play was actually not too bad in the game. That's a Planet FPL first, I think, I should imagine. Palace without Zaha is the usual.
I think
Can't win games without him.
Zaha getting COVID was a real easy escape route for me for getting rid of Will Zaha, because their fixtures now, if you haven't bought Palace already and you hadn't before Newcastle, it's the one game against West Brom, but then their run is horrible. Tottenham, then West Ham, who have been dogged at the back, Liverpool, Villa, Leicester, and then by then we're into the new year. So I just don't see anyone there that's really interesting to have a look at with that run of fixtures from Palace. And Zaha, I managed to get out at the right time.
Palace is an escape really after this West Brom game. It's a difficult run after Tottenham, West Ham, Liverpool, Villa, Leicester. It's a tough little run, actually. So I think after West Brom, that was probably always the plan for people who'd gone on Zaha, or perhaps PVA was probably the West Brom game and assess afterwards. If you've got the cheap budget ones, rotation, it's fine. You don't need to panic about it, although you've probably got one like Tyreek Mitchell who's not playing at the moment and not going to get back in. He wasn't even on the bench.
Yeah.
Zaha, Palace have now lost 15 of their last 17 Premier League games when Wilfried Zaha hasn't played, which speaks volumes for his importance to the team, actually. There was another really interesting stat that came out of the game, actually, was Palace have lost their last 7 Premier League games when they've had the majority of the ball.
Oh, interesting.
Which is a really interesting stat.
Maybe they play better on the counter.
Well, I think it's well documented, isn't it?
Yeah.
If they can break with the pace I guess it's a 4 that they really attack with, because they're predominantly a 4-4-2. I don't know what Christian Benteke and Michy Batshuayi thought of Jeffrey Schlupp playing up front instead of them.
Yeah.
I bet that conversation on the bench was riveting. Which one of us is going to get on first, mate? I don't know what that decision was all about, playing Schlupp up front. He didn't particularly play badly, but he really weird. What did you get Batshuayi in on loan for? You played Jeff Schlupp up front. Really strange one. Eze okay again. The game could have gone either way. Palace probably shouldn't have lost, but they got done at the end trying to win the game. And it probably doesn't suit them outright trying to put territorial advantage over teams. That said, the games that are coming up, they're not likely to have the majority of possession in any of them until possibly they play Sheffield United in game week 17, but I wouldn't think they'd even dominate that, to be honest.
No. Brighton 1, Liverpool 1. Let's get the controversies out of the way. Penalty or no penalty for you?
Which one?
Milner.
Milner?
Oh, sorry, yeah, Robertson. I'm saying. Robertson.
Well, Milner wants VAR banned.
Yeah.
Me and boring James Milner could definitely go for a beer together. The first one, yes, although Connolly's one of them players, he's always trying to wrap his legs around people's bodies when they get close to him. But he invites the foul, it's probably a foul. The second one, technically, it's a penalty, isn't it? It's shit, though, isn't it? It really is shit. But he's kicked him. It's a foul.
Yeah, he's swung to kick the ball, though. So someone's swinging to kick the ball, and I put my...
Make it okay, Suj, if you swing to kick the ball and kick someone else.
If I put my foot out in his way and then he kicks me when he never had any intention, he was aiming to kick the ball. I get it. It just felt like a horrible one.
This is a problem with VAR, right? Because if VAR looks at it, they're going to go, this contact is a foul. Nobody's looking at that. This is the key thing. Nobody's looking at that and doesn't think that Robertson's kicked him. But nobody really wants that to be a penalty.
No one wants it to be.
That's the reality.
And we'll get on to the West Ham game yesterday. I think that the penalty for Watkins, for when Trezeguet went down, was he had his shirt a little bit, but it was the lightest shirt, Paul, with Declan Rice.
On that one, I was going to say, we talking about Bonner was trying to take Watkins to bed for the disallowed goal.
That's a different. I'm talking about the penalty that was given. It was such a light shirt tug, and you're like, this is now like taking. It's so scientific. Okay, the smallest bit of contact. You step on someone's foot by mistake, and suddenly they go down, and it's a penalty.
Well, there was one in the Arsenal game actually where Traore, to me, it's a dive, and at the time when Michael Oliver booked him, I thought, oh my god, someone's been booked for diving, because I keep going on about that. I'm like, wow, this is really good, but actually, he did get his foot trod on. So I don't know why, if you're going to be that specific, you have to look at both of them. I don't think that's a penalty on Traore. That on Welbeck, pre-VAR, he's never going to be a penalty in any season, in any game ever, right? I mean, Welbeck takes 3 or 4 steps afterwards and then does exactly what he should do and go, hang on a minute, I need to make you aware I've been kicked there.
Yeah.
And obviously it gets it. I mean, it's daft from Robertson. He shouldn't be doing it, but no one wants to see that as a pen.
Let's talk about the game.
A straight goal, though, like when it went in. None of this all hanging for the Robertson clean sheet. Keep my team top of the league, mate.
Yes. What about from a footballing point of view? What odds? I stuck a tenner on a Liverpool, Manchester City, Leicester City treble. What odds do you reckon I got?
Well, for all 3 of them to win?
3 to win.
Mickey Mouse, mate. Not even anywhere near evens. Probably about 4 to 6, 4 to 5.
3 to 1.
What, and then 3 all to win?
All 3 to win. Liverpool, Manchester City, Leicester City.
Didn't go well, did it?
That late penalty screwed that one up. But then you're thinking, well, City came in, but then Leicester went and lost as well. So it was a dead bet. But for 3 to 1 on those 3 fixtures, I thought it was.
Why are you telling us about this brilliant bet that didn't win, mate?
Because there's a late last minute penalty, and do you think
didn't matter? Fulham well deserved to win at Leicester, mate.
They did. But in this fixture, I mean, Liverpool, have they got no one else to blame but themselves?
I mean, their XG is low in the game. And I think the whole penalty thing is kind of distracted by it here ourselves now, right? What we're talking about first. We're talking about the incident at the end of the game. Like, Liverpool didn't play well again, right?
No.
And Klopp's ranting about the whole 12:30 thing. All right, you've made your point. I mean, he came off silly, to be honest. But it's a nice distraction from the fact that his team didn't play very well and didn't actually really deserve to win the game. And if Morpay puts Brighton 1-0 up in the game, rather than crying off with his injury, etc., they might have lost. I saw the teams and I thought they'd get beat. And I think that speaks a lot when you think of the way how I eulogise about Liverpool quite a lot, right? I saw the teams, I thought, you're in trouble here. When I saw Brighton's front 3 and that, I just thought it was going to be too much of an issue for them. Brighton didn't deserve to lose the game. All right, the penalties are ropey at the end, but didn't deserve to lose the game particularly. Liverpool didn't hurt Brighton at all. And that's the concerning thing. They didn't hurt Brighton. Jota scores a brilliant goal. That was it. Can you remember another great effort they had in the game?
Similar to when they played us, actually, to be fair. It was we kept it quite tight, and then Jota comes in at the end. He's scored twice when he's come in off the bench now, which makes it's kind of the asset that even if he's on the bench, you don't mind, because when he comes on the last 15, 20 minutes, you know he can still do damage.
I don't think Klopp can leave him out of a league game at the moment. I mean, all I want to see, like I said, is, to be honest, you want them to go through. They need a result against Ajax tonight. They'll probably get it, go through. Then, if he uses his brain, he can use whatever team he wants against Midtjylland next week, which should be youth team, by the way. Otherwise, stop moaning about, Milner gets injured. Oh, did James Milner play 3 times this week again? I've said it's hard to have sympathy when you don't rotate the players, particularly someone of Milner's age as well, right?
Yep.
Obviously don't want the player to get injured, but come on, mate. And then if it's kind of free reign before that Fulham fixture, then you're really interested in going to buy their assets. But the caution on the Fulham thing, looking further ahead, is they play Tottenham on the Wednesday afterwards. The Fulham game's the Sunday. And then Crystal Palace away is 12:30 on the Saturday. So there is going to be rotation over those 3 games. You suspect he'll pick his strongest team against Tottenham, right? Something to be aware on for those who've got the plan. I'm definitely captaining Salah in game week 12 against Fulham, for example. In principle, that's all fine now. By the time you get there on the Friday before the game, you might feel a little bit nervous about it, that's all. Brighton, decent. They're going to be fine. They're going to frustrate.
Not looking at...
They've got Southampton at home Monday night. They'll probably dominate the game and get beat. Danny Welbeck might be interesting.
What price is it? To be honest, I haven't even looked.
I wouldn't know. That's not a player that I ever want to be. Welbeck, Barkley, these are the players. Theo Walcott, these are the players I don't really ever want to be buying again in FPL. It's not 2010, mate. What price, Danny Welbeck?
5.5 million.
I mean, it's not the worst.
No, but Che Adams is only a few pips more, so I'd rather take that.
Well, they've got Fulham, Sheffield United back-to-back game week 13 and game week 14, which it depends on Maupay's injury, right? If it was real or a lot of people don't think he was injured. I think he went off with embarrassment. I think he was the first player to start a game, miss a penalty, and come off in the first half since 1998.
Wow.
In the Premier League.
Let's talk about the next game. Where I should have put my £10 was on an exact score, 5-0, where Man City versus Burnley. They've done it again. When they scored early, you almost kind of sort of knew the writing was on the wall, that they would go on and dominate the game, and they did. I love owning Kevin De Bruyne. Nothing more to it than that.
I didn't miss him at the weekend in the way I have others.
I understand. I understand that mentality and mindset for sure. I think it's one of those where you can hold tight another game or so, but Fulham coming up this weekend, then the derby, and then West Brom. The armband on my bus team is on Kevin De Bruyne right now. I
will probably buy De Bruyne or Sterling this week. I'm not getting. There's a lot of quotes being attributed to Guardiola. I mean, he's obviously saying them about rotation, and he doesn't rotate, and he always picks his best team, and he rotates players based on their mentality rather than their fitness and stuff like that. He's trying to get a rise out of someone who he thinks is not doing the business for him at the moment. Now, you could say he's got that out of Riyad Mahrez last week, right? Is he trying to get it out of Raheem Sterling now? If Sterling doesn't play in the Champions League tonight, I'll take a chance. I'll get him and I'll stick the armband on him, because I don't think many others will be brave enough to go down that route.
Yeah.
And it could go wrong, but my rank's shit anyway, right? That's what I think I'm likely to do at the moment, is go down that route. And if I don't have the confidence in Sterling, then yes, I probably will buy De Bruyne and stick the armband on him instead. They've obviously got another great fixture at home. Fulham this week. It's West Brom at home 2 game weeks after that. It's Newcastle at home another 2 game weeks after that, with Man United and Southampton away sandwiched in the middle, which, with the home records of those 2 teams, not that Southampton's been awful this year, but you've seen conceded 3 at home to Man United, 5 at home to Tottenham. Yeah, City can go there and get goals, right? United's home form's been bad. 1 win in 8 or something? So these fixtures shouldn't hold massive fear for Manchester City. It's just deciding what I want to do, I think.
Let's talk defensively for a second here. Obviously, Laporte rested, and Ruben Diaz played, and John Stones came in the fixture that they would have relatively comfortably wanted to keep a clean sheet, or at least one. And you put Fulham in a similar bracket. I think Fulham will actually probably create more chances than Burnley. If Ruben Diaz plays midweek, are you worried that they'll flip that rotation? Laporte starts with Stones and Diaz gets benched. And on the flip side, let's add in a lot of people gambled on Cancelo, who was dropped. Mendy's come in, and all well and good, he scored a goal, but I don't see Cancelo sitting on the bench for long. I know it was a couple of our patrons asked questions. We do a Q&A for our patrons every Monday about this. I just think Cancelo, he played 7 or 8 on the trot, so he's only missed 1 game. I think he's going to come back in. I think Diaz is a risk for the weekend, especially if he plays Champions League. But Cancelo is the opposite, and I think he'll come back in.
They're all a risk, particularly with these home fixtures, right?
As those words were coming out of my
bar
mouth,
Edison is a risk, mate.
I was like, as the words were coming out of my mouth, I was like, am I actually even just trying to guess what Pep's about to do?
There's no point guessing. I mean, the only thing I'd analyse, and it's easy to say in hindsight, on obviously Mendy playing against Burnley, is when Mendy plays, it's because he wants to get him high up the pitch on the left-hand side. Cancelo can play that role, but he can also come in and play inside almost like a holding midfielder, link play. You saw him even in the game against Tottenham cutting inside quite a number of times. Doesn't want Mendy to do that. It's hold the touchline, keep the game big, and it allows obviously the left forward to be closer to the box. Now, interestingly, Guardiola did say last week he wants to get his wide forwards closer to Jesus or Aguero or whomever plays that position. So playing Mendy high and doing Cole Walker to do the other job on the other side as well, which they don't often do, allows the wide forwards to get closer to the front man. But the thing is, you could say, is he going to keep doing that? Well, against Burnley, you can push them fullbacks as high as you like, because when you lose the ball, it's not a case of they won't track. Of course they'll track, right? You know that. Burnley will work hard. They'll always be honest, no matter what's happening. But when Burnley win the ball back, you don't have to worry about, they're going to thread Goodmanson in behind, or Jay Rodriguez played that position on Saturday, or whatever. It doesn't matter. The rest of the team will cover it. Burnley are one of the easiest teams to play against in terms of transition. You can't do it. They're not going to play through you with a fast counter-attack. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So that it was an easy game for Mendy to play. Now, equate that to obviously playing Fulham this coming weekend. Actually, it's a bit different. So Fulham have obviously got players like Loftus-Cheek played on the right yesterday, Lookman on the left. These sort of players can threaten you in transition.
Yep.
So that would make me think most likely that Cancelo would probably come back in. But as we've already said, like second-guessing Pep. Fuck knows. He might go, well, I want him to push Loftus-Cheek really deep, so I'll still play him, for example. Or I want Zinchenko to cover the counter-attacks better, so I'll play Zinchenko at left-back. This was always going to be the big problem with Cancelo.
Of course.
Diaz and Laporte and their rotation is easier to read. For example, you know now that if they're both fit, they will both play at Old Trafford. But again, going back to Guardiola's comments about mentality and stuff like that, like Laporte at Tottenham was bad. Like Harry Kane giving the runaround, mate. Laporte was stepping into positions he shouldn't have been going into. So it might have been a marked message for him as well. Guessing the Man City team. I mean, it's definitely no point doing it before a Champions League game.
Nah.
We've got no chance.
Burnley, I worry for. Everton, Arsenal, Villa, Wolves, Leeds is the next 5. That's a tough run. I mean,
and they'll probably get like 12 points.
It wouldn't surprise me. But I mean, look, Everton have been a bit bumpy, and Arsenal have their problems as well. But regardless, they can still hurt you with Richarlison, Calvert-Lewin, and James up front. And Arsenal might be able to keep it tight at the back. You never know. So tough run for Burnley. I'm not looking at any of their assets at all, to be honest with you.
The problem for Burnley, of course, is scoring goals at the moment. I think that's the real fear for, and we spoke about this last week, what will give Fulham a chance. Fulham look like can score goals.
Yes, they do.
The others don't. I know, listen, God knows how Sheffield United didn't score at the weekend. And West Brom had a number of efforts as well. Burnley, unless they get the link between the front two right, and I think that needs to be Wood and Jay Rodriguez now, I really do, then they are going to struggle for goals. You know the big threat from them comes from set pieces, stop the crossing from out wide. Exactly what I said. They can't hurt you in transition. They're never going to play through you with a fast counter-attack. Simply doesn't happen. So, although they are always awkward to play against, they are one of the easiest to defend against. And you do look at them fixtures coming up and go, I don't see them getting many.
No.
What's interesting, where you need to keep an eye possibly is game at 16-17, have Sheffield United and Fulham at home. You can mark them down as 2 clean sheets now, mate.
Everton 0, Leeds 1. Another game with a lot of chances. It was always
really
going to be.
Watch.
We anticipated possibly a high-scoring game here. It just ended up with poor finishing, really, at the end of the day. And the one goal that did go in, Rafinha, was a fantastic finish, but I mean, Bamford could have scored. Everton could have had a few as well. Very, very good game. Meslier ended up with 8 saves, max bonus points, clean sheet. He hauled as well. It's a roller coaster of Leeds and the T-Rex Rex of Everton potentially coming back.
Yeah, although it's appearing as much in home games now as away games.
That's the problem, isn't it? There's no pattern as much.
Yeah. The thing is with Everton, you take any component out of the team, it's just not quite right. So they've tried to obviously, they've lost Dean on top of Coleman, and they've tried to bumble through here with Iwobi, who played really well at right wing back against Fulham, did, as I suspect, go to left wing back in this game. Tom Davies played right wing back. We're now playing midfielders as wing backs. It didn't have the same impact as if it had been Luca Dean and someone else on the other side. They had a huge problem with Calvin Phillips in the game. They just couldn't get near him. I mean, he was the outstanding performer on the pitch by miles. But a lot of that was because Everton just couldn't come up with a solution to stop him. And it's interesting at the weekend if, for example, Chelsea might try and put someone like Mason Mount around him, because he's really got the energy and the stamina to go and do a man-marking job on Phillips and make the game awkward and horrible for Leeds. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on in upcoming games. When you play them the week after, you haven't got anyone who can play that role. Like Phillips will have free reign on the game. Most likely the same when Leeds play Newcastle the game week afterwards.
Unless we change formation.
Potentially, you're probably asking Fornals to do that role then, if that was to be the case, which not for me. He's a busy and a tidy player, and he'll work hard for the team. But to go and do a potential man marking job as a 10, I don't think it's part of his characteristics. I think Mason Mount could go and do that job for Chelsea at the weekend, and is a really interesting aspect to maybe keep an eye on for that game. Leeds could have lost this game. Let's be honest. You kind of said Leslie with the 8 saves and that. As much as we praise a lot of the things they do, they keep giving away efforts on goal, etc. I feel like Luke Ayling return imminent. Any game, it's going to come really shortly for him.
But he's sitting on so many benches. Same with Dallas for me with an 8-pointer.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think about when I'm going to play Dallas again, because I haven't played him for a few weeks and I don't see myself playing him for a couple of weeks.
Well, I'll almost definitely play Ayling in 12, 13 and 15.
Yeah.
They've got West Ham, Newcastle, Burnley at home.
Newcastle, Burnley for sure. West Ham, depends what other fixtures the rest of my team have. So maybe for me.
Rafinha looks a good player, mate. What price is he, Suj? I think he's definitely got favouritism over
5.4 million.
Well, look, there you go. Right, you're looking for a player and about that value, aren't you?
Yeah.
I would prefer Harrison. How he didn't return at the weekend, I have no idea. He's hit the post. Before that, he slid a one-on-one chance just wide. He's obviously had the assist for Rafinha's goal. Busy, always involved. Rafinha is the one that will catch your eye because of the technical qualities and stuff. Harrison, I think it's 5.5, is he, Suj?
5.5 million.
Might be the better choice, actually.
I think Harrison. The concern with Harrison is his returns. It's only 1 goal and 3 assists in 10 games. It's not
that
huge,
guy.
But he is 5.5.
That guy could have finished as the top scoring player in the whole game this week, mate. But how he hasn't scored in that game. Another one, imminent. Bamford, fine. He still has chances in the games. He's going to miss chances. He's going to score goals. I think one of them is possibly your solution. I think you'd be put off, Suj, if you're looking to go from Barkley, obviously, down to one of these guys. You go, I'm going straight into Chelsea away. That doesn't feel right. But it might be the better long-term move because you're looking, to wildcard in 16.
Correct.
So judge it over the 5 games with West Ham, Newcastle and Burnley. 3 brilliant fixtures in there.
3 really good fixtures. Yeah, for sure.
They're both worth keeping an eye on, those 2 attacking mids.
Yeah. West Brom managed to get a win against Sheffield United. We'll get to Sheffield United in a second here, but a good result for West Brom. Gets them out of the relegation zone. Well, got them out of the relegation zone on Saturday. After 10 minutes, they're probably shitting themselves now.
I recorded this game and didn't watch it till about 11 o'clock at night, and I obviously didn't know the score. But I saw a couple of tweets about 10 past 8 that were like, oh my God, if I have to watch this again, I'm going to put pins in my eyes and stuff like that. To be honest, watching West Brom with Sheffield United 11 o'clock, I felt like there was a good possibility I was going to be waking up and it was still going to be playing in the background on a loop in the morning.
Forget pins, you need matchsticks to keep your eyelids open.
It was such an enjoyable watch. Not the best technically. A very different game from, say, the Everton Leeds game that I'd watched earlier. But a really enjoyable watch, and you could feel the tension in the game. It felt like it mattered, and it made it a good watch. And it was kind of bizarre because by the end, you're like, how has Sheffield United lost that? But for a long period in the middle, it did not play well at all. They started out the traps brilliantly in the first 5 minutes, could have been 2 or 3-0 up. And then West Brom, I felt, dealt with them very well for the rest of the first half. They obviously got the goal, which your FPL goalkeeper, mate, I know sighting-wise, it was difficult for him, but you can't be letting a player score with his shin from outside the box, mate. That should just be a rule that shouldn't happen.
Yeah, I don't feel like he's my FPL goalkeeper. He's just the goalkeeper that's happened to find his way into my FPL. I don't think
Sheffield United fans feel like he's their goalkeeper at the moment. It must be said he made other good saves in the game, to be fair, particularly the header from Bartley in the second half. But then West Brom invited the pressure. And the one thing I would say about Sheffield United's really high XG, which, according to Understats XG numbers, is the highest XG, I think it's 3.4 roughly. The highest XG in a Premier League game without scoring since February 2016. when Fraser Forster had a worldie for Southampton at Arsenal. So, how have Sheffield United not scored at the weekend? They are also the team that are underperforming their expected XG by the most. They should have about another 8 goals on the board. So, are goal returns coming for them? Well, the problem is you can have great XG and all these brilliant opportunities. When you have Baldock shit himself in front of goal, Brewster shit himself in front of goal, Mousset shit himself in front of goal, Ollie McBurney, average, McGoldrick, average. None of these guys can finish. You can have great XG. Listen, give Sheffield United the same XG as Harry Kane. Are they going to return the same?
No.
No.
Obviously, Harry Kane is going to stick it in the back of the net.
Because he's a better finisher, right? So the stats will tell you a certain story. The problem is
that is not good enough. Yeah,
mate.
1 point after 10. I mean, I'm just trying to put myself in a fan's shoes. You must be thinking we're getting down here.
Well, plus the fact they've obviously lost to a rival, to West Brom. If they'd have won on Saturday night, they knew that as bad as the start had been, they would have at least briefly gone to 17th. And you think, well, we're better than them 3 teams. We'll be all right here. The result for Fulham yesterday as well is disastrous, right? They've got the same. They've got to play Leicester now after Fulham have played Leicester. And if they don't beat them, which you think, oh, Sheffield United won't beat Leicester. If they don't, it starts becoming psychological. You go, fucking hell. And Fulham beat them last week as well.
The other difficult thing at the bottom of the table, from experience, is when you drop more than 1 win away from getting out of the relegation zone, then it's very, very difficult because you start looking 2 and 3 games forward. And then you're like, not only do I have to win the next game in front of me, I've got to win the next game after that, or maybe 2 out of the next 3 or 3 out of the next 4. When you're within 1 game of getting out of the relegation zone, psychologically, you can think about just the next game. But now that they're already like 4 points behind Burnley and the rest, even more behind Fulham and West Brom, it's really going to play on them. And also, like the number 1 is just something demoralizing. Shit, we've got 1 point. If you had 3 or 4, it just feels better than 1 point. So, yeah, difficult feel for Sheffield United here.
They have a brilliant run between game week 14 and 18. Brighton.
For who?
Sheffield United do. I mean, for the other
for
5
themselves?
teams as well. Brighton, Everton, Burnley, Crystal Palace, Newcastle. It's a good run, right? You've got 4 teams there who are probably going to finish in the bottom 6 or 7, plus Everton, who could be a Rex day, right? You never quite know. So it's a good run. They need to win probably at least 3 of them 5 games. And the problem is before that, got Leicester, Southampton and Manchester United. And as it stands right now, you can't see them getting nothing.
No, sadly not.
So I just can't see him scoring goals. Brewster has to play, by the way, because he's the one who does something different. Like he'll have a shot from 25 yards. When he had a shot at the weekend, it was quite a comfortable save for Johnson, who played really well again in goal for West Brom. And I thought, do you know what? I can't remember the last time I saw a Sheffield United player have a shot from 25 yards. Just taking on a bit of ownership. It became at the end, it felt a little bit, nobody wanted to be the player who would miss. I'll rather put it on a plate for somewhere else or something like that. They need to up the tempo of what they're doing, which is really difficult when you haven't got fans urging you on, etc., etc. But they're borderline, despite the fact there are 3 other shit teams down there. Like 1 point from 10. That can't be 1 point from 13.
No.
It's nearly no recovery from that. So Tomo's coming on COTC next week before Southampton. So I hope they get a result Sunday. I actually think they will, by the way, on what I saw from Leicester yesterday. Leicester's worth saying obviously travelled to Ukraine on Thursday. I don't know what sort of team Brendan Rodgers will take. I imagine he'll leave a lot of his big hitters at home. But still, the Ukraine and back on the Europa League, it's not easy. Managers, a lot of the players will still have to go. So actually, they might well get something at the weekend. They probably have to. West Brom, decent. They'll know they were fortunate to win the game here. Johnston is a decent FPL asset, you know, because he's racking up the save points. He really is. And there's always one of the promoted keepers who tends to stand out. Although actually, all 3 of the promoted keepers all of a sudden, including Ariola at Fulham, not doing bad, particularly from a saving of shots perspective. Yeah. They have obviously won their first game. It's Palace at home this weekend. It's another big one. Palace have just blanked against Burnley at Newcastle. They need to take advantage of it.
Yep.
Palace, Newcastle, the next two, then a little grim run of fixtures. But it's psychologically really important they got that first win on the board. They need to get more in these next two, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. We do a show every Friday for the patrons where we look at the weekend fixtures and make predictions. Man United 3, Southampton 2.
I'll take that. Cheers.
Was one that you went with, and I did think it was going to be high scoring. I thought Southampton might have too much for Man United, and based on the first half, I thought, okay, here we go. Southampton are doing what they do well, but United, to their credit, came back in and got a win.
This could have been really bad for United, and the reason it could have been really bad was Southampton weren't great even in the first half. Mason Greenwood had a brilliant chance at 0-0, has to score. And then obviously Southampton scored from a set piece, and then James Ward-Prowse. I mean, it's like a fucking penalty for the boy, isn't it? Every single time he goes over the wall and you can't stop it. It's unbelievable. Can't even blame De Gea on it. He did well to even nearly get there.
I mean, he took De Gea out because De Gea then...
But other than that, United were the better team and deserved to win. Che Adams was quiet. He had a chance in the second half, and I thought, that's the first time I've seen him really quiet, actually. And there were things that were to United's credit. I think on Cavani, don't buy him because he's likely to get banned for putting something really fucking stupid on Instagram, by the way, in case you haven't seen that. So
I haven't.
No.
What's his Instagram handle, James? No. Not for
don't go buying him yet. But as and when he is available, he should be in that team now. He is an elite striker. He's top. He's top drawer. He's one of the best in the world at what he does, even in spite of his age. He is an incredible one-touch finisher. When he misses chances, I think he's got a reputation as someone who misses big chances. It's the things like one-on-ones and stuff, where he overthinks it and stuff. His movement across the box, one-touch finishing, brilliant in the air, all exemplary. Yeah, it's somewhere when he has to overthink things. It seems to complicate things in his mind. He has a bit of indecisiveness about what he's doing. Brilliant forward, though. Honestly, if you played every game between now and the end of the season and get 15 goals, which at 8 million is really interesting for FPL. Really, really interesting. So I've got a really close eye on him now because I think he could be a great asset in FPL. Yeah. I think that's potentially coming, possibly. But you can't buy him now. Genuinely, don't go near him. No. Because that ban,
do you know what's
that
just
ban
happened,
could
James?
be 1 game, 3 games, 5 games. I don't know. And it might not even be for a couple of weeks either.
Nice. We're just talking about being banned on social media. I'm looking at my computer screen in front of me. I had the Twitter feed of all of the questions for later on in the pod. And as I'm clicking through the tabs to get to the FPL points as well, it says from Twitter, we've temporarily limited some of your account features at Suj for violating our rules against abuse and harassment.
What have you done?
This is it. FF Scout Luke put a tweet out on Saturday saying that he, as a Kevin De Bruyne owner, something, as a Kevin De Bruyne captainer, to which I replied, I'm hoping he just shoots on sight for the entire game. That tweet apparently has been reputed, is now abuse and harassment. I'm not talking about shooting people. I'm talking about Kevin De Bruyne shooting the football on sight of the goal for the entire game.
You're not serious, mate.
You can start your countdown. It says here, your account will be restored to full functionality in 12 hours. You can start your countdown and continue to Twitter once you verify your email address, phone number, or remove tweets that violate our rules.
Wow. I would put a complaint into him.
So, by the way, Twitter,
I'm seeing racist messages on my timeline every day, and you want me to tell a footballer to shoot at goal, and you're restricting my account. Don't let that be a lesson to anybody. No one type the word shoot. Is that what it is? Because you use the word shoot.
Yeah, it literally they've got a screen grab here, and it says, "I'm hoping he just shoots on sight for the entire game." That's exactly my tweet. That's all I put about Kevin De Bruyne.
I mean, if you just see that, I mean.
That was when I saw that Peacock Farrell was in goal as well. So I thought, you know what, let's see if Kevin De Bruyne can do something from distance.
There's a joke in there about Peacock Farrell, but I don't think I can tell it properly.
Let's keep it moving. Let's talk about Chelsea Spurs. Go on, you give it the rundown. We expected a tense, tight game. And that's what we got, really.
Didn't even talk about Bruno at all.
Uh,
Someone will ask you in the
say?
questions. Well,
he is. I describe Kevin De Bruyne as a warm, reassuring blanket.
and Bruno's the same.
Bruno is the same, man. Like, I got him in this week, forced the move to get Zaha out, Werner out, and I got Bruno in. I just don't think I'll be selling him for the rest of the season. Anytime, any place. Took his goal well. He's a class act.
I think Cavani would be good for Bruno as well, by the way, if he plays more. Listen, Bruno's absolutely reasonable as an asset if you want to buy him. The price is going to keep going up. I do think this game this weekend is more difficult for West Ham. That said, and we might talk about it in 10 minutes or so.
More difficult for United, the West Ham game?
Yeah, more difficult for Manchester United than the Southampton game. If you change system, that might switch back again, but we'll come on to that. Spurs, apologies to the neutrals who were looking forward to this title-deciding thriller. It obviously wasn't. Really good defensive display. Chelsea have had 2 shots on target in the game. If you'd have offered me that before, absolutely would have been delighted with it. You could say, Tottenham didn't attack overly well. Neither did Chelsea, right? Chelsea spent... I never felt worried during the game. And until the very last minute when Rodon tried to head it back and Giroud got on the end of it. There wasn't a moment in the game where I was like, something's going to happen here. I was quite calm through the whole game. I felt that they weren't good at all. And I think that's a mentality shift for myself. It's been a mentality shift for the players in terms of the way they're playing. What's important in terms of upcoming games, and not so much Arsenal this Sunday, but say Crystal Palace afterwards. Tottenham can't play this way in all the games. And if they want to play this way against Chelsea, Manchester City, set up to be really good on the counter-attack. And Chelsea did well to nullify Tottenham's counter-attacks, by the way, which Manchester City didn't do the previous week. Tottenham can't play that way against Crystal Palace, for example. So it's really important that Tottenham are able to shift from this defensive style to then go and play very differently when they go and play someone like Crystal Palace, where they're going to have the majority of the ball. Although statistics tell us it would be best to let Crystal Palace have the ball. But imagine watching that, playing that defensively against Palace. You just can't, right?
No.
You will have to go and dominate the game and play very differently. The role that Højbjerg and Sissoko are playing defensively is critical. But again, I don't think you can judge what you've seen in the last 2 games and what's necessarily going to happen next because of different games. Tottenham will play like that at Liverpool in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and so should you.
And they might play that way against Arsenal this weekend as well, which could make it a difficult watch if you're Kane's son owner and stuff.
You think that Tottenham should put in 2 holding midfielders defensively stable against an Arsenal side that can't score goals for shit?
I think they're there to be hurt defensively. That's the only difference. Where Tottenham will probably have more success playing against Arsenal if they decide to play this way with... Basically, what it is, he's converted Højbjerg and Sissoko to almost play like... It's almost like a new position in between centre-back and full-back when without the ball. And Ndombele tucks back in, then Kane drops in, and then the centre-backs get drawn to Kane. And then so you still got the 2 wide players are close to Son, and then you can go and spin on the counter-attack. It's actually a plan rather than what we was all fearful of. It was why I didn't buy Heung-min Son to start was he'll end up playing fucking left-back every week.
Yep.
So he's found a system to keep the best attacking, counter-attacking players close to Kane, which is critical. Someone's going to find a formula which is really going to hurt Tottenham centrally, but you still got that wall of 6 players to get through. It's not easy. Mourinho likes to attack with either 5 or 4, depending a lot on the opposition. Quite often last year it transitioned to have Aurier as one as the attacking 5 when he was playing really high up the pitch, for example. Now it's very much a defensive 6 and an attacking 4. The other reason I really like that this works with Højbjerg and Sissoko, it means under this system that Reguilon and Aurier can still power forward on the counter-attack, and you don't want to restrict Reguilon. No. If you actually look at the end of the game, when Mendy palmed out Son's cross, if he doesn't get there, Reguilon scores. And when Chelsea gave the ball away in the 94th minute, immediately by this point, Reguilon was playing left midfield. But Lo Celso should play Reguilon in. So to answer one of the questions we got on our Patreon podcast yesterday, is it time for a Tottenham defensive? In my opinion, it's getting much better. You can definitely take encouragement from keeping clean sheets in 2 games like that. Reguilon, yes, is the best one to buy. Obviously, over the December-January period, he's going to get rotated a bit.
I just
as,
think
as are a lot of players across the league, by the way.
But for some of us that are holding out for this game week 16 wild card with the North London derby, and anything can happen in a derby game like that, I think it's so set up for Arsenal to beat you just because you're the favourites and they've been playing so rubbish, and it's the stories that come out of these derbies. And then Liverpool and Leicester in amongst it as well. I'm happy to just let it go until I play that wild card in game week 16. But talking defensively, Chelsea's top BPS from the weekend: Chilwell, James, Thiago Silva, and Mondi as well in goal.
Of course.
As a Reece James owner, he has been BPS magnet for me for the last 4 or 5 weeks consistently. We had a Patreon question yesterday about tripling up. I think the double up is still very viable. If I could afford Mondi as a replacement for Aaron Ramsdale, I think he'd be right up there as the one that I'd possibly want to go to, but can't. But yeah, I still think Reece James offers great value. If you wanted to double up on the Chelsea defence, I wouldn't be against it at all.
I wouldn't be looking at a Chelsea triple up personally, but
forget about. I don't like a triple up on anything.
This is the guy who's gone triple Liverpool, right? So I'm definitely not going to say you can't. I think the Leeds game on Saturday is really awkward now. I spoke about this on that podcast yesterday as well, about the idea that Chelsea are going to have to go from playing psychologically a more difficult team on paper in Tottenham, who have played very defensively, to now playing a weaker side in theory in Leeds, if by reputation, let's say, who aren't going to give a shit. They're going to come and swing at them. And I think it honestly is a really dangerous fixture for Chelsea to have those 2 games back to back in terms of the way they'll have to shift. It's a good test of them because Chelsea should be beating Leeds, let's be honest. But Leeds are capable on their day. I wouldn't be at all surprised if Leeds went there and won at the weekend. I just think mentality shift between the 2 games is going to be really difficult for Chelsea. And you might find that in the second half, they're finding themselves really tired. I'm not used to not having the ball like this. This is a little bit scary. So I think it's a difficult game. Doesn't mean you can't go and buy Chelsea assets before. It is still on paper a good fixture. I think their run's quite tough, probably all the way up to about game week 19. There ain't any greens on there, mate. No. You go, that's an obvious green fixture. They don't exist. The easiest games on paper would be Leeds, West Ham and Villa at home before they play Fulham in game week 19. It's a tough run, actually. Yeah. So the one I would want to get most is Reece James. And I may end up going that way myself in the next couple of weeks because I just think it's outstanding value. If he doesn't play at the moment, it's just for purely rotation purposes. He is definitely first choice, no doubt about it. I think I'm probably going to lose Son this week, Suj. He's probably going to have to be the fall guy for me to get Sterling or KDB. If I'm not confident enough to get one of those 2 players, though, I will keep him.
Arsenal 1, Wolves 2. Okay, this game was marred by, obviously, the horrendous injury, and we wish Jimenez gets well with his fractured skull. You don't want to see any player have an injury like that. It has so much of an impact. We've had a question on Twitter as well about what impact the loss of Jimenez will have on the Wolves side and how they decide to set up. And one of the things I mentioned yesterday as well to you was about your assertion that Arsenal were on their way to becoming one of the best defensive sides. We talked. If you
I knew they were playing this scene.
You remember after the Villa game, I asked you a few questions, which was around how many players they had in the box every time that Villa scored, and it was like 9 or 10 or 11 players in the box. Even when Wolves scored their goals here, it felt like Arsenal had so many bodies, but they were just not able to. They were static. They weren't able to do anything. How Podence is so quick off the mark to pick up that ball and put it away.
Lovely goal.
But you think, what are the defence doing here? This side is not in good shape at the moment, the Arsenal side.
From an FPL perspective, this game asked more questions than gave answers, unfortunately. So if we start with Arsenal, they've obviously lost at these 3 home games: Leicester, Villa, Wolves. It's bad. Shouldn't be losing all them games, but in an isolated incident, you can lose any of them. Losing at home to Wolves is not the worst result, as it seems. In fact, only Manchester United picked up more away Premier League points than Wolves in 2020, which just a note of caution there to Liverpool ahead of the weekend, by the way. You wouldn't go near Arsenal from an FPL perspective at the moment. Literally, you couldn't. The creativity issue is still the biggest issue. I don't think they're bad defensively. I really don't. I actually think they're getting there. But at the moment, what they've got is they've got a creativity issue, which is obvious. And the second problem, which is now because they're having consecutive bad results ongoing, where, listen, it's not acceptable for Arsenal to be 14th in the league, right? Leadership in that team is a big problem. There are things like the game finishes and Aubameyang kind of trudges off, head down, doesn't look at anyone. You're the captain, mate. I'm not saying he should be barking stuff when you've lost, and obviously he should look disappointed, but just the way he carried himself also during the game, the way he's carried himself in recent games doesn't speak volumes to me like someone who is inspiring this team. He is the one who needs to go and make things happen. And of course, like any great striker, he needs a certain element of service. But also, if he's going to go and play centre forward now, go and do what Harry does. Your team's shit. Go and get it.
Yeah,
and start doing things, because he's a top player. It's not say that, because Aubameyang's quick, we don't associate him with someone who can be creative and stuff like that. He can. He's a top player. Go and do something different for the team. Just not offering anything at the moment. I mean, it's 5 shots on target this season for Aubameyang. That's unbelievable, mate.
5 shots in 10 games. I mean, Suj James had more shots than Aubameyang. It's unbelievable, yeah.
And it also scares me to say these things because I'm loath to criticise them before they play us, because I know what's going to happen. And you kind of alluded to it, and I spoke about this again yesterday. Every time I go into the game confident, it goes wrong. And every time I go into the game shitting myself, it goes well. And of course, I can't not go into the game Sunday at the moment confident. Yeah, right now, I think we're going to beat them. There's something seriously wrong with me if I don't, and I'm quite pessimistic. At the moment, I think we will cause them way too many problems on the counter-attack, personally. But they might do something different. I don't think the manager's the problem, by the way. I haven't got long enough to talk about that. But the problem is quality of players. The manager needs time, and I'm convinced he'll get there.
Wolves are doing all right, though. I mean, the challenge with Wolves here is now, okay, you've lost your talisman in Jimenez. And in the next 5, they've got Liverpool, Chelsea, Tottenham, Man United. In the next 6, sorry.
It's a rough
Man
run.
United,
rough run.
Plus Aston Villa, who on yesterday's performance are playing very well at the moment as well. It's a very tough run for Wolves. I think Neto offers me an alternative to Ross Barkley as well. If the fixtures were better, I would actually quite like to go Neto, and I prefer Neto as a player, to be honest with you, over Podence. Don't
mind that. Just buying before Liverpool away might feel a bit, what am I doing? Particularly if you found out Barkley was back available for the 12th of December, you might be going, I've wasted this. But yeah, Neto and Podence, if there is one conclusion from the weekend, we can definitely say they are now better assets. Where those who have been on Podence have probably been thinking, I've been trying to get away every week for forever, you probably hold now. Him, I think particularly, could play the central striking role. I think Neto could also play it. Traore could also play it if they decide to obviously go back to 3 attacking players, whether they play a 4-3-3, which is basically what it basically ended with 5-3-2. But before they changed right at the end and brought Kilman on, it was a 4-3-3 when they brought Neves on, basically. So what we've now seen is varying styles from Wolves in terms of, and I think that's the evolution of Wolves now. Show us something different. If Wolves want to be something better than finish 7th, and there's nothing wrong with finishing 7th in your first 2 league seasons, by the way, it's an outstanding achievement. But if we want to go and be something more, you probably need to show us something different now. And I think Nuno's face on the touchline was like, I was really going to go with this now, a back 4, and he's just lost the player that would have been the centrepiece around it, which is a little bit heartbreaking from that perspective. Fabio Silva, he's 5.2, which is interesting because obviously if he's going to play every week for Wolves up front, that's a decent price.
Yeah.
It's too cheap to just ignore it if he's going to play. Even with the difficult fixtures, you go, I mean, if I said you know he was going to play every week, would you buy him or Brewster?
Him.
Well, exactly. That's the point.
Yeah. I mean, the challenge with that is, though, that he's going to sit on the bench for more weeks than he's not. So I don't know if it's that 0.7 actually could be useful elsewhere for me right now. If he's just sitting on the bench and second or third sub, maybe I would. But your point is right. Of 5.2,
you don't need to make that decision now, and you're not going to before they play Liverpool away. But we're talking about all these players like Watkins, Antonio, Bamford, Adams, etc. in and around that value. There might be another one that at $1 million cheaper opens up the doorway where someone's struggling to go, I can't get from
Salah or
Fernandes to Salah for game week 12 or whatever. It might open up your door, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to go yet. If someone says, will Kilman get back in the team? Guess away what kind of system that they're going to play against next. I think from the fact that Cody played in the back four, there was a clear intention to really change here. For all the things that we've criticised them for, the lack of attacking intent, Wolves played well in the first half, mate. The game kicked off at 7:15 and Wolves were participating at 7:15. So I think there's been a conscious attempt to shift the mentality now. Whether he decides to stick with it without Jimenez, I don't think any of us know. And the easy thing to do, playing Liverpool away next, would be to go back to the back five. Would be the easiest thing to do, in all honesty. I don't know how it will go.
Another alternative to my Ross Barkley problem would be Ademola Lookman. So talking about the Leicester 1, Fulham 2 game, I mean, he is cheap at 5 million in that same bracket as Souček and what have you. You'd be comfortable playing him and not playing him. I mean, it'd be bonkers to buy a player before they walk into City and Liverpool back to back. But against Liverpool, you've seen the way he drives at defenders and is running at them. I mean, you don't know who Liverpool are going to have at the back there. Is it going to be, is it Nat Phillips or whoever? Lookman's not a bad shout. And I'm glad that Fulham won yesterday. I feel like they've been playing good football.
I'm glad because they deserve to win.
Yeah, I think it was like that if you do the right things and stick with your principles and philosophy, the results will come. And it came in against a difficult fixture away at Leicester.
It deserved it. There's literally no doubt about the result being completely deserved. What I wanted to highlight from Fulham was obviously the role of Cavallero, who's interesting. He obviously played OOP up front. And was he 5'5", I think?
Scored a penalty, would you believe it?
Well, I missed one the week before. What price is Suj? I think it's 5'5".
I will tell you that Caballero is a 5.3 million midfielder.
5'3". Another interesting one to put into the hat.
Ownership through the roof, mate, 0.1%.
Why that's interesting is obviously that's now 2 in a row that Mitrovic hasn't started. Now, the Everton game, I thought he missed out because of international stuff with Serbia, like he missed game week 1 against Arsenal. The fact he's not come back into the team now suggests a shift. And I thought about this, and the conclusion I came to, Mitrovic obviously is a huge threat from crossing. Gets loads of headed attempts off. If they're going to get Loftus-Cheek in the team and play him right side midfield, essentially inside right forward, if you will, and Lookman the left, them crosses are only going to come probably from Robinson at left back, in which case he's almost a waste. And I thought Cavallero, who's a player that Dara, the Tinkerman, he really doesn't rate him at all. To quote him a few weeks ago, he said he'd be happy if he never saw him in a Fulham shirt again. I thought he played really well yesterday. Actually, his back to goal work was really good in his link play. And I think suddenly you look at that and go, Cavallero, Loftus-Cheek, Lookman, got a bit of vibrancy and pace about them. And I think we've had this instinct for a while with Fulham. That one of the reasons we think they can possibly still get out of this at the bottom is they will score goals.
Yeah.
I think that's clear. Now, obviously, removing Mitrovic for a Cavallero, you are removing your best chance of scoring those goals. But the supply to Mitrovic might be that it was going to be so different that he might as well have someone on there who can get about a little bit more. So it's one to keep an eye on. Listen, if he's going to play OOP every week, he's another one. He's not bad at 5.3 million in midfield. I think his ownership is literally 0.1% as well. I think
are you talking about Caballero?
Yeah, I think so.
James, it's easier to say how many people own him. It's like 6,137 people in the entire game.
Thank you very much.
6,176. Yeah, 0.1%.
So, look, it's City away this week. So, again, a little bit like with Fabio Silva at Wolves. Don't need to. But by the time we're coming into Christmas period, these guys might be look like decent assets. I mean, Fulham, from match week 13, played Brighton, Newcastle, Southampton, Tottenham, Burnley. It's not the worst run. No. And someone like a Lookman or Cavallero at really cheap value, if they're going to play in offensive positions, interesting. Loftus-Cheek I wouldn't go near from an FPL perspective. No. And I would still need to see more of what they're doing to have real encouragement in terms of investing in them from a forward perspective. But I think like for people like you, you're saying, there's no options below Barkley. We've identified loads in this podcast, mate.
We have indeed.
Yeah.
And Leicester, what about Leicester?
So there's something I've been watching with them for a few weeks, and I kind of wanted to get a real conclusion on it before I start going making accusations, but I'm going to go and make one. I think I've worked out this back five. I've finally, it's taken me 10 weeks. I've finally worked it out.
Right.
Johnny Evans is shot, and I might get banned from Twitter for saying that, might I? He's finished. I think that's what it's all about, is protecting Johnny Evans. That's the conclusion I've come to. He's so worried about if they go to a back four, that running into channels, he can't deal with it anymore. And what kind of highlighted and got me thinking about it was this really weird statistic where he'd had like 4 bookings in 5 games. Also got sent off on the last day of last season. Why is he picking up so many cards? I know he's rapid. I can't think of a bad tackle. And a lot of them is where he's getting beat on the turn and he panics.
Yeah.
And I've seen this happen like with Vertonghen, who Vertonghen was obviously a much better player than Johnny Evans. You start thinking, I can visibly see something's changing in him in terms of the way he panics. Johnny Evans has been one of the best defenders in this league over the last 10 years or so. Consistent, brilliant, positional, still really good. But he's making mistakes because he's beginning to panic. I think his legs are going. And that's why I think Leicester are continuing to play a back five. Now, what it might need to change it is Soyuncu being fit, and you play Soyuncu and Fofana together when Soyuncu's available, and that might be what gets the back four. If you add Fuchs into the cycle as well, right, well, he can't turn. Look at the way he's defended Decordova-Reid for the penalty. It's rash. So they've got a major pace issue. And what denies it? Flat five at the back. Can't get spatial in between. Unless obviously in the first goal, Fulham have obviously done it where they've got isolated and they played through lines and stuff. But that's the conclusion I've come to. It's Johnny Evans that is giving them the problem why they're playing the back five. Because I think Rodgers thinks he can't play in the back four anymore. Now, if he can't remove Evans from the team because he's leaving himself just with Fofana then, who is still a kid, but we raved about him a few weeks ago. He's had a couple of difficult games now.
Yeah, he has.
Where he's been challenged away to Liverpool. He's done all right. Wouldn't particularly say any of the goals, even at Liverpool or yesterday, were majorly his fault. He obviously covers really well for what's happening with Evans at the moment. Do you know what? It might be I'm a bit out of order with what I'm saying, but this is what I'm seeing. And I think when Soyuncu's fit, Evans will come out of the team.
Why don't you tweet it, and then let's see, because the Twitter police themselves will decide whether you're out of order or not.
I'm not going to use the word. I'm not going to say shot, am I? I might get banned. That would be a problem. I really can't believe you can't say shot.
Let's talk about West Ham 2, Aston Villa 1 last night. Do you know what? I know now how you feel after that game away at City. I know how you feel.
Which one?
Well, any which one that you've stolen, because when they had like 300 shots and you had like 3 or whatever. It was not a good day at the office for West Ham at all. We started brightly enough. I mean, when you score early, it always gives you that kind of impetus. And then we kept the ball reasonably well, but we were just so non-threatening when we were passing the ball around the back and stuff. And one of the things we've been doing well is keeping the ball and progressively moving forward. We didn't, every time we'd knocked it around 4 or 5 passes, we just kept hitting it long. I don't know if it was a case of Antonio's back. Let's just hoof it up to him and see if he can do something. And as we kept doing that, Villa just worked their way into the game, started getting Grealish on the ball, started passing it around. They were better without the ball. They were better with the ball. Grealish he will frustrate with the way that he wins fouls. The reality is, more often than not, they are fouls.
There was one was really bad where he pretended on the kick out.
Yeah,
was bad.
It was, but he more often than not, he is winning fouls. They're cheap fouls, but he's winning these fouls, right? And so, deserve, as much as it was a deflection for the goal, they were coming back into the game. It was difficult. A credit to West Ham, I mean, Moisey, for changing it, realising that it wasn't working. I mean, Rice talked about it in his post-match interview. He was like, look, 5 at the back wasn't working. We had to go 4-4-2. So he put 4 in midfield. Benrahma, I liked. You can tell that he's got ability on the ball. You can tell that he's technically good. And when he's driving and running with the ball, he again drives fear into the opposition. You're like, shit, you've got to stand off him. You can't dive in because he'll win a foul or win a penalty or something like that. But it was few and far between. The rest of the game, Villa dominated. I saw quite a few tweets with people taking screenshots of Watkins' 0 and being like, oh, man, trust me, on that performance, I'd be like you. I'd be inclined to buy the guy.
Yeah,
I thought he was fantastic. Running the channels, stronger than I thought he was. Yeah, he should have scored the penalty. And yes, you never want to win games of football like that. It just left a taste in the mouth where I'm happy for the 3 points, but I'm not happy to win a game of football like that. It just didn't feel right.
Villa lost because they defended 2 crosses very badly.
Pretty much.
That's it.
Yeah.
They were the better side and they should have won. Even a draw wouldn't have been a fair reflect. Villa should have won the game.
Couldn't argue with you. But net, from a West Ham point of view, I'm taking nothing away from that performance because it was so alien to what I'd seen in the previous 2 or 3 or 4 games that if I see the same again at Manchester United at the weekend, then I'm going to be like, come on a second. But if that's a wake-up call to actually let's get back to doing what we were doing well, which is defend properly and play progressively, then I think we'll be all right. But it was just a bad performance.
What do you know about
good?
What do you know about the withdrawals of Antonio and Masuaku?
He didn't like the space that Villa were getting in behind, basically, and he wanted to change the shape. As Rice talked about, we were a 5-2-3, and they set up as a 4-3-3. And he said Moisey wasn't happy at half time, and so he wanted to go 4-4-2. So it was a formation change. Antonio definitely wasn't fit, and he wasn't causing them the trouble that he could or should.
It was interesting that Masuaku got hurt.
Yeah, very.
Because, the reason why I say that in terms of the substitutions and whatnot is that if Antonio wasn't fully fit, it should have used him as an impact substitute rather than starting the game, to be really honest, if that's the case. Because I just think mentality, you think, oh, we made changes to make us better because we're in problems and we've removed our best player. Like psychologically, you're better off bringing him into the game situation than the other way around. But you could have changed the system within the same structure of players you had. You could have just gone, we'll bring 4 nails inside, we'll put Masuaku left midfield, and we'll start like this and see. So it was quite a statement to make 2 changes and take the players off,
listen,
I think.
If you remember the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season, all I was talking about is why the hell Moisey was making substitutions at 88 and 89 minutes. So the fact that he's gone in early, look, I'm not going to second guess the manager. At least he's gone and done something. We came out in the second half and went straight for the jugular and scored straight away. And then obviously it was disaster. But I'd rather talk about Villa. I just think if you own Grealish, and if you don't, what are you doing? But I'm getting Grealish as soon as I can because he is a fantastic football player. Ollie Watkins is causing trouble, running the channels. He was giving us trouble all game. I thought everything that Adam Hopcroft talked about on Clash of the Correspondents about Hourihane coming in and link-up play was spot on.
Yeah.
And he caused trouble from set pieces. I think even the fullbacks, Matty Cash, that I like to call Grealish-like, because he's almost got Grealish's hair, but not quite got it. It was all right as well.
He moulded himself on him, is he?
Yeah, he's modelling himself to be Grealish.
He assisted, technically, Grealish's goal as well.
Yeah. I think Villa were good. They should have won, no doubt about it. You almost feel a little bit embarrassed to come away with 3 points from that game yesterday, but take it on the chin and move on. I'm not selling Soufal. I'm not selling Souček. Antonio will get better. That's all I say. And Villa,
you can't uphold him and now think of selling him. Now he is fit. You've got to probably stomach it now. Yeah. On Watkins, I think is the player that I'll end up leaning into to buy as a Jimenez replacement. Well, when we obviously did COTC last Thursday, I spoke to Adam about my concerns of obviously missing Barkley and what would happen to Grealish particularly. And look, Grealish was the best player on the pitch, in my opinion.
No doubt about it.
So they mitigated the loss of Barkley. I think it's really important what Adam had said as well. It'll be better if Grealish stays left. And we couldn't know whether that was or wasn't going to happen, really, because he obviously could have brought Traore into the team, put Grealish in at 10. But I think Adam called it spot on. He said, look, it'll probably be Hourihane. They'll probably flatten it up a bit. That's exactly what's happened. He's still got the best out of Grealish. If you're still getting the best out of Grealish, you still get the best out of Watkins, generally speaking. Yep. What has annoyed me, and it shouldn't, was the Brighton game was really the time to buy Watkins. but I've missed out on 2 points. This is a result.
Yeah, massively.
This is a result. The other people go, I'm pissed off, 2 blanks, missed the penalty and all that. And they've still got this great run of fixtures. For me, obviously, I'm going to wildcard in game week 16. So it's Newcastle, Wolves, Burnley, West Brom, Palace. And if I just look at it like that, if I'm buying one on the 5 game weeks, as I said, for me, really, it's probably... I don't really want the Villa triple up. I don't actually trust them enough. I think there's issues defensively. I've already said, I kind of wish I'd gone Fabianski rather than Martinez, which was the original thought process a couple of weeks ago. But I think if I just look at that, which striker, Watkins is probably the right one for me to go and get. Just interestingly, he's missed 4 of his 6 penalties in the Football League. If you include his penalties, for Brentford.
Yep.
Now that's 67% fucking miss rate is not good, right?
No.
So he might come off them.
Yep. Got a box of tissues here, James.
Grealish looks like he wants them. When the penalty was given last night as well, he looked like he was walking over the ball to the ball, holding his hand out, as in like, I'll take it. Strange one to keep an eye on. Grealish definitely wants them. There's no doubt about it.
Box of tissues, James.
What's that for? Watching
mate.
porn again?
Nosebleed, mate.
Oh, what, 5th?
5th in the table, 17 points. We're only 4 points behind. If you'd have said to me 10 games in, you'll be 4 points behind Liverpool, 4 points behind Spurs. Mate, yeah, I'd definitely have a box of tissues.
What's more impressive is 17 points from the last 8, considering you lost the first 2 games. He's better than top 4 form, mate. Go and be someone. Go and be something, blood. Come and fight me for the title.
we have to defend better against Manchester United at the weekend. And if anyone from West Ham is listening, sort out your emails and tell me if I've got a bloody ticket, will you? Because I'm still waiting to find out. I'm just waiting for Tottenham to probably not deliver the bad news. I'll just be sitting there on Friday going, guess I haven't got one then. We did have some Twitter questions, but obviously I don't want to click anything on my Twitter account, James, here, because it's going to start a timer when my something that I need to do. But there were a few questions around Foden and rotation.
Do you want me to have a look? Can you really not look?
Yeah, I can click it. Remove tweets that violate our rules. Fine, I'll delete that. This account does not have a confirmed email address attached to it. Bloody hell. I feel almost like I've been told off at school. No, I can't get into Twitter, mate.
Do you want me to?
It's asking me for verification codes and all sorts.
All right, I'll ask a couple of questions then. This would be unusual. FPL Del Boy says Newcastle v Villa rescheduled or forfeited. Has a PL game ever been forfeited? And do FPL have a contingency for points distribution if a forfeit happens? But I'm presuming reschedule is the way to go. I think forfeit is last resort if it was come to it. But this Newcastle story is one to keep an eye on.
Yeah. I would feel bad if it was forfeited. I'd feel really bad if it was forfeited.
FPL The Flash says, would you rather listen to pundits discuss the game and tactics or boring us with 45 minutes arguing about VAR? It depends who's doing it, because most of the analysis is fucking shit at analysing, so I don't really care what they talk about. But generally speaking, I'd like to hear good analysis talk about football and tactics rather than VAR personally.
I didn't
Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville were going to come to blows last night.
Yeah.
Carragher had a good point.
I didn't want Watkins' goal yesterday to be disallowed. As a fan, I know obviously I want the 3 points, but you just don't like winning games of football off that.
One of the things I didn't speak about, which is quite interesting, was the idea that if it wasn't a goal, it was a penalty. It
was a penalty. You're right. Yeah.
I'll tell you why this particular decision is really awkward.
Yeah.
So technically on the rule, which we all fucking hate, he's offside when the ball is played. He's also being fouled. It should probably be a penalty. But why would you want to give Villa a penalty when through the advantage they've scored?
Yeah.
I think actually giving Villa a penalty would have seemed bizarre, but we've scored. And you could say, okay, we've taken it back 1-2, but that just would have felt right. Giving Villa a penalty in that situation wouldn't have felt like in the spirit of the game. What would have been the spirit of the game would be to go, I'm not going to judge his offside by his fucking arm. It's a goal. We're not going to get our coloured lines out. We're going to go back to the football that we enjoyed, this precision over inches, etc. Stop this nonsense. If you have to get your lines out, go with the original decision, and that's the end of it.
Correct.
Fantasy Football Nerd, great show, lads. FPL, with your experience, how important do you feel building squad value is ahead of using a wild card? I think it's more important to get the right points in your team personally. But
this season really has been a struggle, though.
There's certainly value in building up value. One of the things I've been less concerned about is because, my opinion pre-season was everybody was underpriced. And I think that's why, although there's loads of good options, it's why we've got such huge ownership of people like Son, Calvert-Lewin, Grealish, Fernandes, etc., Harry Kane. It's because none of them are overpriced. They're all obviously doing really good, but if they were all £1 million higher, the decisions would be harder, right? And as we've highlighted on this podcast, you don't know who to sell Barkley for. We've got about 8 or 9 names to consider now. There are loads of them.
I hit a bottom of 99.6 and I'm only at 100.2 now. Previous seasons, I'd be way higher than this. I feel like this year, I haven't built up squad value at all, really.
I would rather be at 100.2 and have your rank than mine.
Yeah.
Although I noticed today, this is really weird. So I'm 3 million, just over 3 million. I've only had 2 red arrows all season.
So basically,
it actually looks good on paper.
What it means is you've been consistently shit, Jason.
No, what it means is I've been consistently doing okay. I just had 2 of the worst weeks ever.
Yeah. I've only had 1 game week rank inside the top million, which was 674k. Every other rank has been outside the top million for the game week.
Our friend Dave at Simple Goals says, with Everton's fixture stiffening, Dean injured and then beginning to slow down a bit, could now be a good time to move off DCL and look towards Adams, Bamford as their fixtures ease while reinvesting cash elsewhere. So interesting, I noticed on the markets, Calvert-Lewin is looking like he's still being bought, despite obviously the blank at the weekend.
Well, he's returned in 2 of the last 3. So
he's got the 2 at Fulham, obviously, didn't he? So, I mean, it's not panic on a blank, but I did say a couple of weeks ago, I think after the Burnley game, which is this weekend, you might see a little bit of movement. He's probably going to end up staying for me now because he still just offers such great value. I've got the price up on him. I don't think I'm going to lose it. It's not the biggest problem I've got between now and game week 16, basically, although it's a tough run of fixtures. I don't see him scoring more than, say, 2 in those 5 games coming up. Therefore, it should probably be a sell, but I've got other things that I want to deal with more, and he is capable. Because he stays between the width of the post. So he always gives himself a chance in any game.
Yeah, of course. Find one more question,
One more.
James. Yeah, let's do it.
FPL Arkham, non-football related. What are your views on the Cavani incident? I see a lot of Liverpool fans saying this is no different. He should be banned the same length as Suarez did. Thoughts? You haven't seen it, have you?
I haven't seen the post, but from what I can see, he made a racist post on Instagram.
He used the word in Spanish, which it's the N-word, mate, basically.
Right, okay.
But he thinks it's okay and acceptable in the context, which a lot of people using that language seem to believe as well. But I think it's probably going to be more relatable to what happened with the Bernardo Silva incident.
Yeah,
You've been a fucking idiot here, mate. Because again, I think Cavani's trying to use it in the context of being friendly and grateful for something, whereas Suarez was racist to Patrice Evra's face. So it's a little bit of difference between the two. I can't understand that a player like Edison Cavani, obviously being Uruguayan as well, would have known exactly what Suarez went through, you presume.
Yeah.
It'll be stupid enough. It's beyond belief, really. There's no choice but to ban him for games. It's literally no choice. Whatever the context of wherever it was used, you've used that word on a social media post. You got to go, mate.
Yeah. I've just seen the post there, and I'm in agreement. I don't speak Spanish or what have you to know the connotation there, but yeah, you don't say things like that. You just don't do it. Just say amigo, gracias amigo. Just leave it at that. There we go.
No place for racism in football. I also noticed, Suj, to go off the back of one of our very recent podcasts, you might have noticed rainbow laces all over Sky.
Yeah.
I don't think the Premier League have been promoting it at all, you know.
Yeah. Well, there we go. That's a wrap, James, for Game Week 10's review. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on this podcast. Being that it's the first of the month, if you want additional content, have ever thought of supporting the show, you can do through patreon.com/planetfpl this month. And in the next sort of 24 hours, James is going to be producing our schedule or publishing our schedule for the entire month, taking into account Christmas fixtures, etc. It is mental.
It's
we're going to
46
have a lot of fun.
podcasts. That doesn't include my deadline streams. There's over 50 bits of content this month. If you'd like to buy me and Suj something nice or say thank you for or support the podcast, yes, we'd love to have you join us on Patreon. That'd be the best Christmas present you could buy us.
Indeed, especially as you will then get to interact with us on Slack. We have a Slack channel. We have prize leagues as well. We need to sort out our managers of the month as well. Seeing that the month ended yesterday is something we need to do, James. And a whole host of other stuff. If not, you can always enjoy the free podcast. We love having you listening to these as well. So wherever you are listening, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts, etc., just hit the subscribe button, notification bell. You will know as soon as we put a podcast live. Other than that, we are into December, James. Jingle jangle, Christmas is coming. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Cue music, please, man child.